one of my biggest regrets.
Oprah Winfrey says she feels partly responsible. And one of her biggest regrets, she says, was
when you have been lied about for a series of years, how hurtful that is. So imagine that for over a period of months and years, and you know that it isn't true.
She, quote, deeply regrets the royal racist controversy and is very sorry. What do you make of that? All of these regrets, isn't it too late?
The same woman who once handed Meghan Markle the biggest spotlight of her life just snatched it right back. Oprah Winfrey, the undisputed queen of television. The woman whose 2021 sit-down with Meghan and Prince Harry shook the entire world, sat in front of millions and dropped a shock nobody expected.
Most important thing for them, before I do any interview, I have a conversation with whoever I'm interviewing and ask, tell me what your intention is, and I will tell you what my intention is, and let's see if we can align those two, because I don't want you to finish an interview and at the end of the interview say, I wish I had said.
She didn't just admit a small mistake. She said she was wrong, completely wrong. She confessed she felt misled, manipulated, and caught up in a story that wasn't what it seemed. And in one brutally honest moment, Oprah flipped the narrative so hard it sent everything crashing down around Meghan's image. And it didn't stop there. She publicly apologized to Catherine, Princess of Wales, the very person Meghan had once been positioned against. That move alone ripped apart the carefully crafted storyline Meghan had built over the years.
The color of the baby's skin.
Yeah.
You asked Harry about it when he came out. He did not tell you who it was. Harry still is choosing to protect the identity of whoever that was.
Yes, and he did not share the identity with me that it was not his grandmother nor his grandfather that were a part of those conversations.
Imagine your biggest supporter suddenly stepping back and saying the whole situation wasn't what they believed. That's not a correction, that's a full-on demolition. Oprah went point by point, challenging claims live on air, while Catherine stayed silent and still ended up looking stronger than ever. If the tension between Meghan and the royal family already felt intense before, this moment took it to another level. Because betrayal from an ally hits way harder than criticism from an opponent.
This preposterous pair sitting down, giving that interview, that awful interview to Oprah Winfrey, calling the royal family racists, false.
There's a conversation with you,
with Harry,
about how dark your baby is going to be?
potentially, and what that would mean or look like.
For years, Oprah had been the ultimate stamp of credibility. Her approval could shift public opinion overnight, and her platform had the power to shape global conversations. Back in 2021, Meghan walked into that famous interview ready to share her side, and the world listened closely because Oprah handed her the microphone.
Wife is not visibly black, but that's who she is. The way that they speak about her and the way they treat her is incredibly relatable to everybody else of color.
When you have been lied about for a series of years, how hurtful that is.
That interview wasn't just television. It became a cultural moment people talked about everywhere. But now, fast forward, and the same person who helped amplify Meghan's voice has stepped back publicly. Oprah didn't quietly distance herself. She said, live on air, that she regretted how everything unfolded and wished she had pushed harder for answers. She even admitted she should have questioned more, verified details more carefully, and not allowed the situation to unfold the way it did. For someone with Oprah's level of influence, saying that publicly is huge. Doing it on television makes it explosive.
Doing an interview to offer them a platform to tell their story about why they left. And that was my number one intention, was just clarity on why did you leave? And so some of the things that were revealed in that interview came as a surprise to me. And those surprises are now referred to as bombshells.
What makes the situation sting even more is how close they once seemed. Meghan wasn't just another guest. She was welcomed warmly, treated with trust, almost like extended family, which is exactly why this reversal feels so intense. This wasn't a critic speaking out. It was someone who once stood firmly in her corner. Oprah looked straight into the camera and said she felt personally misled, not just professionally. The tone wasn't casual. It was emotional, direct, and serious. She explained that her trust had been used in a way she didn't expect, and that single admission alone cracked the foundation of Meghan's credibility in the public eye. And here's why it mattered so much. Oprah isn't a gossip host chasing headlines. Her reputation has always been built on honesty, trust, and authenticity.
People say reconciliation, reconciliation. We hope the brothers reconcile. What do you say?
I do not get into people's family matters. Nobody consults me about their family business, so I try to stay out of people's family business.
So when she suggested she had been given information that didn't fully match reality, it didn't feel like drama. It felt like a public reckoning that changed the entire conversation overnight. Ruthless is the only word for it. Oprah didn't say she was simply mistaken. She said she felt played. That word hit like a thunderclap because it painted Meghan Markle as someone running a calculated sympathy strategy, with Oprah caught in the middle. Oprah even admitted, "I should have seen through it, but I chose to believe her. That was my mistake." The meaning was clear. Meghan told her version, but Oprah handed it global power with her platform. That confession wasn't just awkward, it was reputation-shaking, raw, and impossible to rewind once it aired. When Oprah shifted from emotion to specifics, the entire tone changed instantly. This stopped being an apology and turned into a point-by-point breakdown of Meghan's most talked-about claims, starting with the bridesmaid dress situation that had once painted Catherine, Princess of Wales, as cold and unfair. Oprah clarified that both women were upset at the time, and the situation had been far more mutual than the public believed. With one explanation, years of headlines suddenly looked shaky, and Catherine's image shifted overnight. Then came the sensitive topic of alleged bias within the palace. Oprah explained it was described as a single private comment, not the sweeping accusation many people had assumed. That clarification alone stunned viewers because it changed how serious claims were being interpreted. And Oprah kept going. She described how support had reportedly been offered, resources, guidance, and help adjusting to royal life. But the situation had later been presented publicly in a very different way. The implication was unavoidable. Facts may have been reshaped to strengthen a narrative.
Anybody who has experienced some challenges in their families with in-laws or brothers or sisters knows how difficult some of those situations can be. And I'm sure that, for the royal family, it's no.
By the time Oprah finished speaking, the storyline Meghan had leaned on for years looked less solid and far more complicated under scrutiny. Then Oprah pivoted, and the contrast became impossible to ignore. Without dramatic speeches or emotional interviews, Catherine had quietly built public respect through consistency and composure. Oprah described her as authentic, steady, and resilient. Praise that landed harder because it followed criticism of Meghan's actions. The timing made it even more intense because Catherine had recently faced a serious health battle with calm strength and privacy. While Catherine focused on recovery and family, Meghan's public presence continued with polished social media moments and lifestyle promotions, creating a contrast viewers couldn't miss. One woman appeared centered on personal challenges, the other on public visibility. And Oprah highlighted that difference directly. She called Catherine a symbol of hope, while Meghan's image suddenly felt more performative in comparison. The most striking part? Catherine didn't respond at all. Her silence carried more impact than any statement could have. And in that moment, attention shifted dramatically. For Meghan, the blow wasn't just losing Oprah's public support, it was watching Catherine become the figure many people trusted more. Oprah's shift didn't just create headlines, it shook the foundation Meghan had relied on for years. That original interview had once been her strongest proof of credibility, the moment that validated her story worldwide. Now, the same source that elevated her narrative was questioning it, and that reversal changed everything. That interview had been Meghan Markle's armor for years, her protection against critics, her proof that she had been treated unfairly. The moment Oprah Winfrey publicly questioned it, that armor didn't just crack, it shattered into pieces. Every argument Meghan leaned on suddenly looked weaker because the same person who once amplified her voice was now challenging the story itself. What made it hit even harder was the power dynamic. Meghan's approach had always centered on controlling the narrative, getting her version out first before anyone else could shape it. But once Oprah spoke out, that control slipped away fast. Meghan couldn't easily spin it or dismiss it because the words weren't coming from a critic. They were coming from someone who had once stood beside her and risked her own credibility to do it. This wasn't just exposure. It was a credibility collapse in real time. People who had defended Meghan started questioning everything, while those who had doubts suddenly felt validated in public opinion. That combination is brutal because it flips perception overnight. Meghan wasn't only facing criticism, she was facing distance from supporters, and when that distance comes from the person who helped build your platform, the drop feels instant and harsh. The timing made it even more intense. Meghan had been rolling out a carefully planned relaunch, polished branding, curated social media, lifestyle content designed to signal a fresh chapter. Her team hinted at a reinvented image, a comeback story ready to take off. Then suddenly, Oprah's comments cut straight through the momentum in one broadcast, shifting attention completely. Instead of headlines celebrating Meghan's new projects, the conversation exploded around Oprah's revelations. Clips spread everywhere online, analysis flooded media outlets, and the comeback narrative got buried under controversy. It was like climbing halfway up a ladder only to have it pulled away without warning. Public reaction made the contrast even sharper. While Catherine, Princess of Wales, continued to receive sympathy and admiration for her quiet strength during personal challenges, Meghan's glossy posts started to feel disconnected to many observers. Polls and commentary showed public sentiment moving in different directions, widening the perception gap dramatically. This wasn't random bad luck, it felt like devastating timing. Oprah's words didn't just create headlines, they wiped out the momentum Meghan had been building before it could fully launch. Months of planning seemed overshadowed in a single night, leaving Meghan watching events unfold largely outside her control. Media coverage amplified everything. Networks replayed Oprah's comments, headlines framed the situation as a major turning point, and social media turned clips into viral moments within hours. What stood out most was the silence. Meghan, usually quick to respond, didn't immediately counter the narrative, and that absence only fueled speculation. Online comparisons spread fast, highlighting Catherine's calm public appearances next to Meghan's curated content, and the discussion took on a life of its own. Even longtime supporters appeared uncertain, unsure how to defend her when the person who once backed her most strongly had stepped away. The fallout didn't stop with headlines, it started creeping into every corner of Meghan Markle's public image. Brand watchers, media analysts, and even casual observers began asking the same question. If Oprah Winfrey was stepping back, what did that mean for everything else Meghan had built? That kind of doubt spreads fast, and once it starts, it's almost impossible to contain. For years, Meghan's biggest strength was perception, the idea that she had powerful allies and cultural influence behind her. But influence works both ways, and when support shifts, the impact hits twice as hard. Suddenly, partnerships looked more cautious, public reactions more skeptical, and every new move she made faced heavier scrutiny than before. Momentum doesn't just slow down in moments like this, it stalls completely. Meanwhile, the contrast with Catherine, Princess of Wales, kept growing without her even trying. Catherine stayed focused on family, recovery, and duty, appearing composed and grounded in public moments. That quiet consistency created a powerful image, not because she was competing, but because she wasn't. And ironically, that made the comparison even louder in the public eye. Inside media circles, the conversation shifted from sympathy to credibility. Commentators began revisiting past claims, old interviews, and previous controversies, re-examining them through a new lens. Once that door opens, it rarely closes quickly. Narratives that once felt settled suddenly looked uncertain, and Meghan found herself facing questions she thought were already behind her. What made the situation even tougher was the emotional angle. Oprah had once represented validation, a symbol that Meghan's voice mattered on the global stage. Losing that visible alignment wasn't just strategic damage, it carried personal weight too. Public perception often follows emotional cues, and people could sense the shift immediately. And here's the reality that made everything more intense. Reputations aren't destroyed overnight, but they can change direction overnight. One major moment, one unexpected reversal, and years of carefully built positioning can start sliding in a different direction. Meghan wasn't just dealing with criticism anymore, she was dealing with uncertainty, and uncertainty is the hardest thing to manage when your entire brand depends on trust. The support and storyline slipped completely out of Meghan Markle's control. And the most striking part was that Catherine, Princess of Wales, didn't do anything at all. No statements, no reactions, no posts, just silence. And somehow that silence made the contrast even louder, making Catherine look composed and secure while Meghan appeared pressured and boxed in by the situation. For someone whose public identity has always been tied to managing attention, losing that spotlight so visibly was harsh. This wasn't just criticism. It felt like humiliation playing out in real time, the kind that sticks in public memory long after headlines fade. And the twist made it even more intense because the turning point came from someone once seen as her strongest supporter. What happened didn't feel like a random controversy, It felt like a full circle moment. Back in 2021, Meghan used Oprah Winfrey's platform to share her side of events with the world, turning that stage into her most powerful tool. Now, years later, that same connection became the thing shaking her credibility the most. The symmetry was impossible to ignore. The person who helped elevate her narrative also became the one questioning it. It wasn't about luck. It was about perception shifting dramatically. Meghan had aligned herself with Oprah, believing that connection would provide lasting protection from criticism. Instead, Oprah's public reflections made Meghan appear more vulnerable than ever, like a strategy that backfired at the worst possible moment. And the reality made the situation even sharper. Catherine didn't need to respond, the palace didn't need to intervene, and the media didn't need to dig for new angles. The momentum changed from within Meghan's own circle, delivered by the one voice she couldn't easily dismiss. That's why many observers called it the ultimate betrayal, because when opposition comes from outside, recovery is possible, but when doubt comes from inside your support system, the impact cuts deeper. It wasn't that Meghan's image was attacked directly, it felt like it weakened from internal fractures. And once public trust starts slipping, rebuilding it becomes much harder. The same stage where Meghan once celebrated global validation now carried a completely different tone, and that reversal alone changed how people viewed everything that came before. Catherine stayed steady, the palace remained quiet, and the shift unfolded publicly through Oprah's words, leaving Meghan scrambling to find footing. When the person who helped shape your public image starts questioning it, the impact isn't temporary. It leaves a lasting mark on perception. And here's where the story takes another unexpected turn. This wasn't the first time Meghan's reputation faced turbulence, because if Oprah's comments shocked people, what came next stirred even more attention when Markle finally spoke openly about their complicated history, adding another layer to a narrative that was already under intense scrutiny. Just when it seemed the situation couldn't get more complicated, a new voice entered the conversation. And it came from inside the family. Markle, long known for his strained relationship with Meghan Markle, stepped forward with comments that reignited public curiosity in a big way. Family tensions are always messy, but when they play out under global attention, every word carries extra weight, and this time was no different. He spoke about past disagreements, missed connections, and his perspective on how things unfolded over the years, painting a picture that added more layers to an already complicated narrative. Whether people agreed with him or not, the impact was immediate. Headlines exploded, commentators jumped in, and suddenly Meghan was facing another wave of scrutiny from a direction she couldn't easily ignore. What made it hit harder was the timing. Public perception was already shifting after recent events, and now this personal angle added emotional intensity to the conversation. Family disputes tend to draw strong reactions because they feel more personal than public controversies, and that emotional factor amplified everything overnight. Supporters and critics alike began debating who was right, who was misunderstood, and what really happened behind closed doors. The situation also reinforced a pattern many observers had been talking about. That Meghan's story was being shaped not only by media narratives, but also by people close to her speaking out. When outside critics talk, it's easier to dismiss, but when someone from your own family shares their side, it creates a different kind of pressure entirely. That dynamic made the conversation feel more complicated and harder to control. And once again, the spotlight shifted in a direction Meghan didn't fully command. Instead of focusing on future projects or public appearances, attention circled back to past conflicts and unresolved relationships. In the world of public image, momentum is everything, and moments like this can pull focus away from carefully planned goals in an instant. If you watch this and have thoughts, drop them in the comments below. If this breakdown made you see things differently, hit subscribe and stay locked in for more deep dives like this. Don't forget to like the video and share it with someone who needs to see it.